The Gophers lose the 2023 season finale 28-14 to Wisconsin. I got Ron Johnson with me to help me break it all down. It's coming up next on tonight's Locked On Gophers Postcast.
You are Locked On Golden Gophers Postcast, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's happening? Back in the lab, back at it. Another Golden Gophers Postcast episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. You got myself, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spinman. Joining me as always, I got Gophers Hall of Famer Ron Twinkle Toes Johnson, host of the Ron Johnson Show each and every week. Follow him on X if you haven't already. It's at 3Ron Johnson. Ron, so much I want to get into. I want to pick your brain a little bit. Gophers fall to Wisconsin today. Finish the season at 5-7. Before we jump into it, though, quick reminder, this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Game Time, the best place to buy tickets. All right, man. Let's just jump right into it. Both these teams trying to end their season on a high note. Gophers, of course, trying to get to that 6-win mark to get into bowl eligibility. They don't do so. They come up short. They end the 2023 regular season with a 5-7 record. Let's just start with your biggest takeaways. What's the major headline or two in tomorrow's paper from this one?
Just not enough. There wasn't enough plays being made. To be honest, if you look at time of possession, it was even. If you look at number of plays, it was pretty close. I think it was 59-66. You look at first downs, I think it was 19-20. So it was pretty close down the stretch. Now, granted, turnovers, I think that was a big part of for the Gophers. You had the big turnover by Athan at the end. You had the Daniel Jackson fumble. And that's been kind of the story all season. You know, the Sean Tyler fumbles early in the season were the reason for some of the losses and just the change in play and the way they had to get stuff done. But yeah, for me, it's just not enough plays were made. Like, that's the end of the day. Wisconsin made the plays, and when it was 14-14, right before the big Braylon Allen run, I said the Gophers have to find a way to not let him get going. And then he got going. He got the big run, and then from there, it just felt like Wisconsin had a stranglehold in the rest of the game. The Gophers offensively couldn't get anything done. But yeah, I'd say not enough plays made. That's it, period. Got to make the play, and they didn't do it.
Yeah, well said there. And you mentioned it. They jumped out to the early lead right away in the first. They go into halftime all tied up at 14. But the longer this one went on, and you touched on it, the more the Badgers got Braylon Allen cooking on the ground. And he's a guy they shut down last year, the first time they saw him, just 47 yards. But this team, this Badger team, they're 17-2, now 18-2 when the man rushes for over 100 yards. That goes all the way back to his freshman year, and he was well over that early in the second half. Finished the day 2 touchdowns along with 165 yards on 22 carries. That's a potential day 2 pick. I'm talking round 2, round 3 in this upcoming draft for sure from what I've seen from him this year, if he can just stay healthy. And then for Gophers fans, Ron, I think win or lose, they wanted to see 2 guys end on a high note to end this regular season out. That was Athan Caligmanis and PJ Fleck. Yeah, even PJ Fleck. Both guys have taken a lot of heat, a lot of criticism at times, rightfully so. For Athan, I think it's just been taking that next proverbial leap. And for PJ, he's taken a lot of heat for just being too conservative all year, whether it's not being more aggressive on offense or not playing tighter on defense when they built up those big leads late in games throughout this year. I'm going to ask you about both bigger picture here in a minute, but just for this game specifically, did either one do enough to end this season on a high note when it comes to the things they've been under the microscope for tonight versus Wisconsin? What do you think?
Well, I mean, going forward on fourth down, I think that's one thing PJ kind of did that a lot of people were hoping to see more of. You know, even towards the end of 4th and 9, it's almost like on 3rd and long, you want to play for, to get third. You know, it's a 4-down situation. So PJ Fleck, I'd say yes in the first half, no in the second half. I think it's a 2-part question. Everybody's thoughts are going to be the sum of its parts. But if you take the parts apart and actually really look and break them down, you got to be honest and say, hey, first half he was in it, like he was right there. Second half, just again, didn't make the plays. When you look at moving forward with Athan Caligmanis, no, I didn't see enough from him today. Now, like I said, he's a gunslinger. He was decisive in that first drive, and that was the last time I saw decisiveness. So, he's got to be more decisive. Like, he's got to understand the offense a little bit better. The coach has got to feel like they can just give him the checks when he needs to check out of plays himself, and he doesn't have it right now.
Yeah, and let me ask you about, I guess, a little bit more about those guys, big picture now, right? When you look back at the entire season now, 2023 campaign, you got PJ, 7th year as a Gophers head coach now in the books, and it's been a season of missed opportunities, right? Fans are always going to look back on this season and remember all the games in which they led big late and still came out with a loss. So in your opinion, what's the biggest, I guess I'll say, missed opportunity or biggest disappointment when you just think back to this season as a whole, and what, I guess that could be one specific game or what have you. Well, what's just the biggest disappointment from this season in your eyes?
Just losing to the teams you shouldn't lose to. You look at Northwestern, you look at Purdue, and you look at Illinois. Those 3 games should have been easy wins, especially Northwestern being up 21 and then still 20 or whatever it was and still losing. Like, that to me is the biggest disappointment. Like, when you look at the talent that those teams have compared to the Gophers' talent, they should have lost those games. And I don't know. Again, I don't know if it comes down. Like, we do know there was some youthfulness on the field. Like, a lot of injuries happened. You get to a running back in Darius Taylor, who wasn't supposed to play this year because, you assume Sean Tyler's going to be the guy. A guy like Jordan Newman probably wasn't going to play as much, and he's now a star. So, it's a lot of that too. There was some injury. Maverick Baranowski started off in replacement for Cody Lindenberg, and then he gets hurt. Then you get Cody Lindenberg back finally, then he goes back out again. So it's just one of those things where you had linebackers playing that shouldn't be in the game, and or at least not yet. They shouldn't be in the game. They're young, and they were thrust into a role that they probably weren't ready for. And so I think that was a little bit of the disappointment, is just the amount of guys that had to play that just weren't ready.
Let's spend 2 more minutes on that, because I think you're right. There's plenty of blame to go around. It wasn't just one thing. I mean, we're all going to point back to, again, things like the Northwestern game and others where we watch wins turned into losses. That's obviously disappointing. But the defense specifically, though, you kind of touched on it. They should take a chunk of the pie here, too, don't you think? Because that was always a phase of the game that's always been their bread and butter since PJ's been here. Really, ever since that Northwestern game, they've been leaky at best outside of the Iowa game. Okay, well, Iowa doesn't have an offense to begin with, but they just never really looked like themselves once you got past those first 3-4 weeks. So in this pie chart of blame, I guess, how big of a piece are you giving to the defense this year?
A big piece. I mean, I would say it's more so of just not being able to close out games. The way PJ put it, guys were jumping into positions, sometimes they're not trusting their teammates, they're not trusting what the coaches, told them to do. So that's a little bit of it too. When you think about the Northwestern game, Tyler Newman being just a little bit, too greedy, trying to make an interception, going after chasing a seam route, and then there's a post seam route behind them. That's the in-breaking route. When you think about the Illinois game, same thing. You think about the big runs that happen, guys not in their lanes, jumping out of lanes. So I think, you got to put some blame on defense, but also offense, man. Like, you got to do it both ways. Like, time of possession was kind of even. And so that means the offense is having just as much time on the field as the defense, and they're not converting third downs. They're not scoring. They're not putting the ball in the end zone. Guys are dropping passes. Athan Kellyman is putting it on their hands and they're dropping it. So I can't just put it on one. Like, it goes hand in hand, to be honest. And if the offense converts one more third down, if they catch one more pass, who knows what happens.
Is there some specific on that side of the ball that you just assumed we'd get more of this year? Or like the pass rush, just for example, pass rush, never feel like that really got going at any point in the season. Felt like kind of a big mystery week to week. You mentioned Cody Lindenberg. He was hurt most of the season. That didn't help. I mean, Tyler Newman, yes, he was fantastic. He balled out every week, but that just wasn't enough. Was there something missing specifically that you remember back to the preseason? You're like, I expect big things from this phase of the defense.
Yeah, well, tackling,
Yeah.
And again, Cody Lindenberg and Maverick Baranowski being out, I think that's part of it. I even said this to Cody Lindenberg when he was on the PJ Fleck show with us, that you can tell the difference in him at linebacker and the other guys. Like, he moves at a different speed. He kind of diagnoses plays faster than most do. Jack Henderson, honestly, like, he came out of nowhere and became a big piece of this defense. But again, just not always making the play sometimes. And so that it is what it is. But, as far as defensively, I thought there would be a little bit more consistency with the tackling.
No, that's a really good point, actually. Good observation there. And then what about Athan? Because he's going to be a hot topic of discussion now all off season long, these next 3, 4, 5 months. He was supposed to be the guy to take, the big leap and lead this team to bigger and better things offensively in his first full season under center. So I guess I'll ask you for the final time this year, because I ask you every week on these postcasts, immediately following all these games. For you personally, Gophers legend Ron Johnson, did Athan Caligmanis show you enough for you to buy in that there's something there you can build off of? Or should this program look elsewhere this offseason and start all over? What's your 2 cents on that?
Well, I always believe, no matter the sport, even if it's Kirk Cousins, you always look elsewhere just to, figure out what happens with competition, because you have to look just to create that competition to make sure that guy's not comfortable. Did Athan show me enough? Yeah. Like if you watch some of the sidearm throws, the different arm slot throws he made, some of the quick trigger throws he made when like there's a guy at his feet and he can't use his feet because he can't step into the throw, so it's literally all upper body, and just the mechanics. Yes, the things that Athan needs to work on is consistency. There's some throws he made that you're like, man, he's great. And then you'll turn around a couple plays later and throw the ball in the dirt. And he knows it because he wants those throws back. You can tell from his body language, his demeanor. But there's just pieces of the offense that he's going to have to figure out fundamentally as well. Like if he doesn't have a Tanner Morgan grasp with his offense, he's going to continue to struggle at times. And I think the more comfortable he gets, because I have to remember, this is his first full year starting, the more comfortable he gets within this scheme and this system, the better he'll get. But I think the other question is going to be, is it time to move on to a new coordinator or a new quarterback voice, like a QB coach that's not coordinator that can just help out? Because I know they have Tanner Morgan there, but there's only so much he can do game day. He's not allowed to talk to players. So just figuring out how to get the best out of Athan, I think, is going to be the key.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe the solution isn't just jumping straight to getting a new quarterback. Maybe it does have something to do with the coordinators and maybe even the play calling as well. All right, don't go anywhere. I want to ask you more about what this roster might look like next season with the 28 seniors on the roster, the whole transfer portal situation. But first, I got a quick word from our sponsors over at eBay Motors. Guys, our partners over at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, and he's doing it all season long. Whether you're looking for help in your best ball league or if you just need help scouting the weekly waiver wire, Vinny and eBay Motors are here to help you find the players that fit your lineup each and every week with eBay's guaranteed fit fantasy picks of the week. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is here to help you win your fantasy football championship, and eBay Motors knows every championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Well, same goes for your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly, and they got everything you need. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, Ron, let's look at the rest of the roster moving forward now, because currently you got 28 seniors on the roster, 14 of which have eligibility remaining, including, you mentioned him, stud linebacker Cody Lindenberg, which would be awfully nice to just see him finish out a season fully healthy before he hangs it up. So 28 seniors, up to half you could get back with one more to go. And then you got the whole transfer portal situation. That's a huge part of this equation, which PJ's kind of had mixed results with. I mean, he's found guys like, Benjamin St. Juste from Michigan. He's now starting cornerback on the Washington Commanders. Corey Crooms from Western Michigan. He's this team's clear-cut number 2 passing weapon. Then he got some misses in there. Maybe Sean Tyler this year. He never really got going like we thought he would. He's gotten sniped, quite a few times as well. Most recently, Trey Potts. He went to Penn State. Even Bucky Irving. Don't forget about him. He's having a fantastic year over with Bo Nix in Oregon right now. They're about to go play for the Pac-12 title next week with a potential berth in the college football playoffs. So what's the first thing you think of when you hear all of that? Like, what should PJ's game plan be if you were him? Does it all start with just trying to keep your own guys in-house, like the freshman phenom, Darius Taylor? What's your forecast look like for the Gophers 2024 roster right now?
Yeah, you got to lock down home first. So I think that's the key. You got to make sure your guys are happy to be here. You got to make sure you have that conversation because, this week is coming up. They're going to do the whole exit physicals just to get out the season, just to make sure, even though it's not like the NFL where guys do exit physicals and go home. These guys are just doing exit physicals to see where they're at when the season ends as far as rehab, being around. So you got to lock those guys down first. From there, you also need to evaluate the talent you have. Like each position, each coach is going to have to go through and do some hard grading and kind of say, like, receivers, where are we at? Here's what we have, and what do you think? Do we need to go out and get a guy, or can we make it with the guys we have and some of the younger freshmen that are going to get to play? And then you go by each position. You go running backs, you go, linemen, you go, and so I would say next step, looking at the portal, because you're going to, like, the season ends basically this week for most schools that aren't going to a bowl game. So all these schools that kids aren't going to bowl games, they get to enter the portal. They get to, decide, okay, I'm not happy this year. I wish I had played more. They're from LSU, Texas, wherever, Georgia. They're going to, as the season goes, they're going to all start to decide if they're going to put their name in the portal to get out of there. From there, you do a little recruiting and figure it out. Some guys will say, reach out to me first, or let me reach out to you. You probably have some guys like Corey Crooms and those type of guys that are, were smaller schools that maybe had Minnesota on their radar before and didn't really get too much interest or show interest. And now it's like, well, hey, like, I got interest in Minnesota. They could be at a bigger school that aren't playing. So yeah, you definitely, that's the next step, is then going there. And then from there, you always gotta build up the stable with high school kids. So making sure your recruits that you've early committed are going to commit. And then the ones that are going to, the ones that are already committed are going to sign. And then once it's time to sign them early, get that signing period out the way early so that you're not dealing with it. So yeah, it's kind of a home first, then maybe look at the portal, and then figure out your recruiting from there. Because once you figure out what you can get in the portal, like if you can all of a sudden pull 2 receivers from the portal to partner with Daniel Jackson, Corey Crooms, then you don't probably need to worry about offering, especially if they're like freshmen or something, offering too many receivers from your recruiting class, unless it's a guy like a Rashad Bateman or somebody like that you're like, oh, we got to make sure we offer this kid and get him in our program because he'll start for us day one as a freshman. So yeah, it's a lot that goes into it, but I think that's where you kind of start.
This team still has plenty of talent to build off of. Who's some of your top building blocks right now when you think about the 2024, top of your head with that roster? Like, who's 1 or 2 guys on each side of the ball you think you're going to be, quote unquote, cornerstone pieces for the Gophers next season?
Yeah, well, I think, when you look at Ja Joyner, you look at Maverick Baranowski, and then you look at Darius Green on the defensive side. I think you start there. Those are really key pieces to that defense. You also have Justin Wiley as well, but those are key pieces. And Justin Wiley, he's for sure a key piece. You look at those 4 key pieces and kind of say, well, I got my corner, I got a safety in Darius Green, I got an outside linebacker, and I got an inside linebacker. And Maverick and Cody Lindenberg is coming back. He said that. He said he was going to come back. So it's just about health, like you said, getting healthy in the offseason, being ready to go day one versus like this year he came into the season unhealthy, and so he had to sit out. But you put your pieces there to start, and then from there you build around the guys you have. Offensively, Daniel Jackson's coming back. And I think that's the big key is Daniel Jackson's coming back, Jordan Newbin's coming back, and then Athan Kelly-Manis. I hate to say it, like he is the guy going through the offseason, going through spring ball. And so you can hang your hat there. And I think that's a good starting block of group of guys. From there, it's up to Brian Callahan to figure out this offensive line and, what are they going to look like in 2024.
Yeah, well said. That's plenty to build off of for sure going into next year. A lot of talent. All right, I got 2 more quickies to close, but before we get to that, I got a quick word from Game Time. Quick reminder, this episode is brought to you by Game Time, because you should never have to worry when buying tickets to any big event. That's why Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets to any local event, concerts, comedy shows, sporting events, even Broadway theater, and with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Personally, for me, Ron, I love that view from the seat feature they offer so I can get a real look and accurate visual on where my seats are going to be so I know exactly what to expect before spending all that money. And with their all-in prices, Game Time shows you exactly how much you're spending with no hidden fees. It's time to take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and see for yourself how easy it is. Just create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, just create any new account, redeem your code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Game Time, terms and conditions apply. All right, Ron, 2023 season in the books, man. Just give me 30 seconds on each one of these. I got some superlatives. Just give me the first guy that comes to mind. Team MVP of the 2023 season, Minnesota Golden Gophers. Who's your guy?
I don't know if there's one. But if I had to pick one, I would say ooh, that's a tough one. I'd say Tyler
I'll go with Nubin. I guess I'll go with Nubin.
Tyler Nubin. Nubin. I'd say that one.
Yeah, it was senior night. A lot of guys, final game at Huntington Bank Stadium for the final time. Who's the senior you're going to miss the most? Not necessarily the best player, the best talent, but the guy you personally are going to miss watching on Saturdays in a Gopher uniform.
Yeah, Chris Altman-Bell. And the way his season and career kind of ended for me, I felt for that too, just coming off injury. Wasn't able to be out there the whole year 100%. So for me, that's tough. But, 7 years is a long freaking time to play college football. But, yeah, I'm definitely going to miss seeing him on the field.
Yeah, well said. How about the biggest breakout player? I feel like there's 2 or 3 of these guys that could potentially win this award. Biggest breakout player for the Gophers?
Jordan Nubin. I think that's a guy that nobody expected besides me. I mean, if you go back to my tweet and my interview with Jordan Nubin this summer,
you got the receipts.
Tyler Nubin and Jordan Nubin. I interviewed Tyler first and I interviewed Jordan later. And I sat down with Jordan Nubin and I told him in the spring, he looked extremely explosive. He looked quick. He looked shifty. What we didn't know was that some of these other guys like Darius Taylor was going to get a chance because they hadn't been in spring ball just yet. And Jordan Nubin had a better spring, in my opinion, than all of them, even better than Sean Tyler. But PJ went with the guy, Sean Tyler, that he bought in. So he's like, hey, Jordan Nubin, you can wait your turn. And he had a breakout year.
All right. You may give the same answer for this one. Most improved on the offensive side of the ball. Is that Nubin as well? Or do you got somebody else you could hand this award to?
No, we don't know Nubin, so we can't say he's improved because we never saw him. For my improvement guy, I'm going to go with Daniel Jackson because he became a guy. He became a guy this year. So I would say him for sure. He definitely has a room to grow. His ceiling is not even close to being met. But he definitely had a big improvement year, in my opinion.
How about defensive side of the ball? Most improved on the defensive side of the ball. Who you got?
Ooh, most improved defensively. I'm going to go with Ja Joyner. I don't know if you can call it improved, but more so just got better and got more menacing and got more explosive and twitchy. So yeah, he definitely made an impact on the defense side of the ball from getting after the quarterback, QB pressures, and just feeling his presence. I think that was the key. You felt him out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. Player you want to see more of next year. A guy that, despite a 5-7 record, you're kind of excited for next year.
We don't know if he's going to be the starter. I'm guessing he will be, but Athan Kaligmanis. I think there's so much more to do with him when you think about a quarterback that doesn't check out of his own plays yet, that doesn't truly have a full understanding of the offense and scheme and number count and all that. Because being a quarterback, there's a lot. So I'm really excited to see his next steps because you don't enter the year. If he enters the year and he's the same person he was last year, this year, he's not going to be the quarterback for long. But I truly believe he's going to get better. Because that's just what you do in college football. And so he had a full year. Now he's going to learn from it and go out there next year and have way more opportunities.
All right, last one. Final grade for PJ Fleck on this 2023 season. His 7th season, by the way, as Gophers head coach.
Yeah, I got to go with a B-, C+. I'm going to stick with the B- for the simple fact of he was in most of the games other than Ohio State and Michigan. But I'm leaning towards a C+ just because you went 5-7. 5-7, not going to a bowl game. I can't give you a B, so I got to go C+.
All right, I want to close with this one, then we'll get out of here. I mean, we've seen the schedule next year. You open versus North Carolina for the second year in a row, this time with no Drake May, probably a top 3 pick. Week 4, it's Iowa at home. Very next week, it's back to Ann Arbor for Michigan. Week 6, you got USC at home. No Caleb Williams, though. Again, likely number 1 overall pick. Week 7, it's at UCLA. Nice little stretch after that. Maryland, Illinois, and Rutgers before you finish the year with Penn State at home, then at Wisconsin next year. Just obviously a lot's going to happen from now till then with this whole offseason, but just your quick preview for the Gophers next year with that 2024 schedule. What's your gut say right now?
Oh man, my gut says 7-5.
Okay.
And that's 5 tough wins and then 2 like, whoa, I couldn't believe they won those games.
Yeah.
But honestly, you just don't know. Like you really don't know. Because UCLA has a young quarterback in Dante Moore. So our allure of UCLA is the UCLA of old. The new UCLA has a young freshman quarterback this year. Next year, he'll be a sophomore. He is built like Cam Newton from Detroit, Michigan. So he's highly regarded. But he definitely struggled this season when you look at the interception to TD ratio. So that can be a win. USC without Caleb Williams, I mean, they're going to go out and get a 5-star probably, most likely with Lincoln Riley. He did it at Oklahoma year in and year out. So I'm pretty sure he's either going to get a transfer in that realizes, hey, if I transfer in with this guy, I might be able to win the Heisman, or, a recruit that comes in. And then from there, Michigan's probably tough. Penn State's tough. And then the rest of them, it's anybody's game. Like you said, North Carolina without Drake May, I don't think they're going to be as good as they were this year for sure. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's just going to be awfully interesting to see that play out. And again, for me, I'm just awfully curious to see what some of those teams, like you mentioned, who are awfully tough right now this season, look like next year without some of those big key quarterbacks especially. All right, great stuff. As always, Ron, hey, huge shout out to yourself, everyone who joined all season long right here on the Locked On Gophers Postcast. We appreciate you. We're so grateful for all the love all season long. Gophers fall to Wisconsin tonight, 28-14. Finished the season 5-7. Rest assured, we'll be back next season breaking it all down right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota channel, so you can like and subscribe. Make sure you stay up to date. You can also go follow Kane Robb over on the Locked On Gophers podcast every week for all the new updates and news and notes all season long as well. That's Ron Johnson, Gophers legend, Gophers Hall of Famer. Check him out on the Ron Johnson Show each and every week on X at 3RonJohnson. Until next time, I'm Luke Inman on Twitter at Luke_Spinman. Signing out.